On today's episode of The Back of the Bird, we sit down with Georgia Swarm member, Mann Cup champion, WLBC champion, Bryan Cole. Chat about his career growing up in Oakville, his time in Burlington, his stop at Maryland, and his career through the pros, which includes quite a few championships at this point. Also chat about a little bit of lacrosse business news in the equipment world this week, some other news and notes around the sport. Let's get into it. Episode 122 of The Back of the Bird.
Take your first ride and run, baby, run. If you want a sign, this is it. You're mad, you're magic, you're as hot as a gun. You wanna play with fire, consider this. You'll chase the thrill if it's worth the hit, 'cause you never ever wanna work for it. Take your first ride and run, baby, run. You got a spine of steel and a roar of thunder. Yeah, you make me drown, yeah, you're pulling me under.
All right, we are back again 2 weeks in a row. Episode 122, Back to the Bird, presented by Cottage Springs. Go out there and try them again. If you haven't, if you have tried them, tell a friend. Hopefully you followed Donnie's full routine he gave out last week for the Worlds of putting them in the freezer and getting ready. And then the great news for you guys is lacrosse season's soon, but hockey season's even sooner. So grab a couple springs, enjoy the Leaf game, and hang out with your friends. But let's get into it. Donnie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. First things first here. We talked about it a lot, obviously, last week. But, congrats to the boys, the Canadian boys, for getting it done. We watched the gold medal game together. Fucking pretty dynamic, awesome team there. And, cool to see Team USA do some records there. And we watched the women's final, a great game there as well. So fun to watch. A bunch of guys we know putting up 10 goals a game or so in the tournament as well. So credit to everyone for what seemed like a good event. And also wanted to say on that note, it's fair to say that the lacrosse world has been critical of some stuff this summer, especially with tournaments and having off-floor stuff get in the way. And I've said my own piece a few weeks ago about some stuff I was frustrated with. Seemed like from a social perspective and from a broadcast perspective, the World Lacrosse, the WLBC was very, very well done. So credit to everyone there. They hired good video people, and there were really good video clips coming out all week. They hired good broadcast people, Belial, Teddy, Daniela, Mackie, Stamper, everyone who's involved. I thought it was a good product. The fact that it's available on TSN is obviously the way to go, and just enjoyed watching it all the way around. So credit to everyone involved.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, I mean, you're bang on. It was great to watch. Congrats to obviously we're a little bit of homers here, and we want Canada to win all the time. But pretty cool step for the U.S. women's too, being able to pull that victory off. I think we talked about it was the first time they were going to meet in the tournament, just with the way it laid out. But they pulled it home. So it's the Canadian women, I'm sure, will bounce back. But the men's game was awesome to watch, back and forth again. All your buddies kind of doing well and scoring lots of goals. Our buddy Smitty getting back out there, and we're cheering every time he's making a play or doing something. So it was fun to watch. But we had a conversation about it. I don't know if you want to keep this part in or something you're going to leave out or put out later. But even looking at that, like, second team Canada could have sent, they could have given Team Canada one a pretty good fight in the final too. Which is pretty crazy, man. To speak to the depth of the game up here, it's interesting. But I think too, I had a couple conversations. We had a little captain's practice this week, and I think US put up a good fight. But you throw Schreiber, Karen McCardle, a few other guys that weren't out there. You throw those guys out there, it's probably even closer. So it's heck of a match, and they're nipping at the heels. It feels like the same thing that's happening in international hockey is happening in lacrosse as well, with the US and Canada with this Four Nations Cup. Should be a pretty pretty good little battle here. But yeah, we're like I said, we're back in the swing of things. Had a ride with my buddy Lance up to our practice on Tuesday, and let me tell you, there's nothing like just bantering with the boys and being back in the room, being out there, and then the next day having that soreness back in your life. It's just it's a great thing, man. It's so back. And Lance had a good text. It's just how can you not be romantic about lacrosse? It's special.
Hey, I've been on the record many, many, many times on this podcast. Sports with your buddies is the best.
Yeah.
I've yet to find anything better than that, and don't think I ever will. Sports with your buddies. That's all it is.
Man, it's so great. It's because it's you put all your gear on and you go out there and you can talk about a couple of things that are going on in your life, or you can escape from those things, or you just laugh. Like I threw something in our group chat. I got 8 laughs on that message, and like that might the only thing
you're counting likes.
The only thing that might be close to sports with your buddies is your buddies in said sports group giving you multiple likes or laughs on a message that you put in there. Because the day after practice, we had an all-time banter going. It was it was good, man.
You got to be a Hall of Fame group chat guy, right? Like you're.
I like to think so. I'm probably it's probably one of those things though that like you're swinging at every pitch and
okay, yeah,
you're gonna hit it. You're gonna hit a home run every now and then, but it's like every other message says my name. But I guess it's a good way to try and stick around if you don't know if the skill's gonna cut it. So
it was great a few weeks ago when Paulie was like, "I think I'm in like 10 group chats," and you were like, "I think I'm in 100."
Man, it's insane, and I've gotten the gears for it before. Of just like because group chats are funny, right? Because it's. You can leave your phone like somewhere for 2 hours, but if the group chat's active, like you're not missing anything, but you're missing everything. It's one of those things. It's just like you want to see what's going on, you want to chip in, you want to chirp somebody, you want to defend yourself if you're getting roasted. But really, if you didn't look at it for a while, like there's not a ton that you're gonna miss unless you got to be somewhere at a certain time or whatever. But it's the best, man. Like,
did you guys have? Did you have a speaker? And are you in mid-season form on the sticks?
No, we can't be doing that this early. I can't be showing my stuff because it's I've only got so much of it, right? We can't be putting game film out there on what I've got to show until we get ready. But maybe next week we'll bring a speaker and get the boys going. At Memorial, they actually have the speaker on the floor too, like the sound system. You can hook your phone up to it. So I think next week I might have to. Start showing like my tier 4 stuff.
Yeah. It's preseason for the Aux guy too.
Yeah, keep the expectations low, and then baby, once the first game rolls around, or we're all in the locker room again. Come on.
You have like how does that work for like? Do you already know your A stuff, or like at some point over the next month you're gonna kind of sit down? Like how does that process go?
Yeah, I would say there's some soft looking that goes on throughout the off season.
Okay. Some window shopping.
Yeah, I'll start liking some stuff here and there, long listing it, and then as we get a little closer, the short list starts to come out. Okay, what point of the do we want this? Is this a shoot around type mix? We want maybe 90s, 2000s lighter stuff for shoot around before shoot around in the morning. Guys are a little grumpy before they get their coffees in them. You can't be throwing heavy stuff. And then once the game rolls around, it's big. Just get the right mix at the right time and get the boys. You can't peak too early. That's a big part of this. People think it's show your stuff early, but you got to lead them. You got to keep them wanting a little bit more. So
okay, love it. Yeah, well, I'm never gonna hear them because I'm not on your team, and that's you keep it in house pretty good, which I respect. So I wishing you all the best.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You're a good Aux guy and nickname guy, as everyone can see.
Yeah, but I don't know my Isaacs that well. That was clear. But I know I had actually read through.
Newtsy to you, buddy.
Yeah, we Newtsy. We did. We talked about this before we started recording, but you put out a nice article today on kind of everything that's going on in the hockey world. I was reading through. I think it was that Westhead from TSN was kind of tweeting about just all these deals going on with the hockey equipment companies and the PE firms that were looking to sell them and offload, and it seems like they're going to make some good money on selling those things. But you kind of talked a little bit about the implications on the lacrosse world too. So maybe you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so put up an article this week on Lacrosse Culture Daily. Go check it out. So basically, the gist of it is that Bauer and CCM both sold this week. So Bauer was owned by two companies, and one of them bought out the other one. So Fairfax now owns Bauer, and why that matters for the lacrosse world is because Bauer owns Maverick and Cascade. And if you look recently, Cascade and Maverick are now really operating as one brand. They have the one website and stuff like that. So they're operating under Bauer. And then CCM was bought by a Swedish company for the article from Bloomberg said that CCM was valued around $500 to $600 million. So these are big deals, big companies. And I just thought it was interesting because there's really 2 to 3 main players in hockey now. There's those two, Bauer, CCM, and then there's Warrior and True and a few others. And in lacrosse, it's kind of like that too. Warrior Bryan is its own kind of silo, and STX is still hanging on. And then Maverick Cascade has a big piece of the market as well. Obviously, with college teams and Cascade, really dominates the helmet market, as most of you listening to this will know. But then in recent years, we've really seen these other companies breaking through. So East Coast Dies breaking through, String King, Evo Shield. What was the other one?
Signature.
Signature, yeah. And there's more that I haven't mentioned too. So kind of just feels like an interesting, if Bauer owns these lacrosse companies, will CCM look to buy up a rival one? Maybe. It seems logical, seems likely, and also, there's a lot of similarities between the two sports. Lacrosse equipment is expensive, similar to how hockey equipment is, and it's growing. Lacrosse is a great demographic in terms of, the wealth of the sport from equipment suppliers' perspective. So, will some of these other companies get kind of brought into the fold of these bigger, equipment giants? Maybe something interesting to watch, but pretty bizarre that Bauer and CCM, they both sold within a day of each other. So Bauer was on the 30th, and then the CCM deal was yesterday. So kind of an interesting, off-season story here for lacrosse fans.
Yeah, and something you see quite a bit in terms of different lines of business being sold or companies being sold that work in the same kind of industry, just because the second you see something valued at the way it is, and then based on market share, and then you can kind of seeing another business get its valuation, you can essentially do rough numbers and get an understanding of what you could sell for based on your market share, which I get, man. It's a lot of cash. I think some of the stuff that we saw, I saw in the article sucks. Not your article, the other. I think it was. I don't know if it was in yours as well, but it was more hockey based, so I assume not. But I remember reading that the plan of these PE firms could be to raise the prices of their highest margin items, which would be sticks. Which
do you know how expensive? Do you know how expensive the best sticks are right now?
I think I saw an $8.99.
It's not that on Hockey Life. It's $4.30 for the best stick.
What?
That's a lot of money.
I want to say you can take this out, but I want to see if I think I took a screenshot. My $8.99 guess was so bad.
And skates are
$4.20. So yeah, the top of the line Bauer stick. I screenshot it, and you're right. It's $429.99. It's like, man, that's crazy. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and something, by the way, while we're on the subject of money, Cascade, when they were bought by Bauer in 2012, was for a total. In 2012 was for $64 million. So I think lacrosse has grown a lot since then. Obviously, inflation has gone up since then. I'm not an economist here by any means, but you can kind of imagine what these equipment markets look like a little bit based on these sales.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's interesting too, because I don't know the details of it, but from what I understand, Cascades had a patent forever on like the design of the helmets, and like that's why you see all these other companies that try to come up with a helmet, and it's so hard to make it not look clunky or ridiculous because they have a design patent on the way that it looks. And I would imagine that something like that is going to expire in the next while. So I don't know how I don't know if that'll change the landscape of the market, but it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, so two more
But
interesting notes, by the way, just kind of spoiling the article. You go read it. But uh, Maverick was founded by a guy named John Gagliardi. He actually played in the NLL for a brief time, played at Hopkins. His most recent venture is Kane Footwear. You know the shoes?
yeah,
Yeah, so he's the founder of that. So he founded Maverick, and then now he's founded Kane Footwear, which is a huge footwear brand. So the guy who runs Kane is a former, I believe, All-American at Hopkins, played, I think, in both pro leagues. So, maybe
good
we
for
can
him. And
get him on back
those
to
are
Bird one day.
those are the ones that are almost like a Croc running shoe, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so maybe Kane wants to sponsor us too.
And then one more kind of business thing that came out this week, also on the Cross Culture Daily. So make sure to follow there. But the Albany Firewolves announced a arena deal extension. So I think it's hard to tell exactly because they announced it as a 6-year deal with MVP Arena, but I think it was a 3-year extension on their existing deal.
Got it.
So that's pretty interesting. You're always hearing about different rumors. So Albany
That clears one of them up.
yeah, Albany is staying, and then also I saw that Rochester is getting a new management company for the arena. So nothing is going to change according to the articles that I read, but there's technically a different company running the operations of the arena. So just some lacrosse business stuff coming across the wire this week.
But this week we've got Bryan Cole on, coming off a pretty sick summer of a Mann Cup into a World Box Championship. So I think at this time we'll send it over to him. As always, it's brought to you by Lucky Penny Media. At Lucky Penny Media, we're a full-service marketing company without hefty agency pricing. We understand your brand is everything to you, and when working together, it means everything to us. You're more than just a client, you're a partner and a teammate. Our philosophy is simple. You grow, I grow, we grow. So here he is, Bryan Cole.
All right, this Oakville native played his minor lacrosse for the Oakville Hawks before joining the Burlington Chiefs for his junior career. He played his college lacrosse at the University of Maryland and was drafted by the Georgia Swarm. He's a PLL champion. He's an NLL champion. He is this summer a Mann Cup champion and most recently a 2-time World Lacrosse Box Championship champion. Welcome back to the Bird, Bryan Cole.
Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, save some for the rest of us.
Yeah, it's a pretty good resume, man. When you get it out there.
I gotta tell Paulie to save some for the rest of us, man.
Yeah.
I was listening to the last episode. He's got like 15 championships.
Yeah, and you just ask him; he'll tell you. Yeah, man, we'll just jump right into it because we'll kind of get to, obviously there's a lot of recent stuff that we want to go through, but my thing's all choppy. Just give me 1 minute. There we go. Okay, we're back. Yeah, we'll go back to the beginning, man. Growing up in Oakville, how'd you pick up a stick? How'd you get into the game?
I think like probably most lacrosse players could say at a young age, I played hockey, and a lot of my buddies were picking that lacrosse thing up pretty early. So I just decided to try and stick around with some of my boys in the summer, and my dad found some cheap equipment at Source for Sports, and away we went.
And did you go right into playing rep in Oakville, or did you kind of do like the peanut?
I did one year.
How old were you?
I think I was like 6. So I played hockey at 3, 4 years old kind of thing, and then I think when I was 5 or 6, I started playing lacrosse, and it was like played house league the 1 year, and you got drafted to like the blue or the orange team, and played the one summer, and then I think Oakville Hawks might have started rep at like 7 or 8 years old, so it must have been sometime around then.
And then, I mean, growing up from there, there's some characters that are our age playing for the Hawks. Like, did you guys have kind of like the same core group for like growing up for all those years?
Yeah, it was like myself, Ben Neeb, Ty Albrecht, Ryan Adams, Obviously, Brennan was our goalie for field and box. So that was kind of the core group. And then, yeah, I think we stuck together, I want to say, for close to like 10 years, as you kind of every other year.
Yeah.
Some guy like Ty was always on that team when you went into minor midget or whatever. Ty was always that guy, and Ryan Adams were always on that A team. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think like 7 of us kind of stuck together.
Yeah, it's a shame too because you guys were not quite the last year, but one of the last years where Oakville still didn't have a junior A team. So maybe would you kind of been able to stick together a little bit more through it? Like maybe.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because just the extra team adds another whatever 20 spots,
Yeah.
and especially in junior when a lot of those guys have to be from the hometown. I think just by numbers we wouldn't have been able to stick it out, but it's nice to see that Oakville's got a junior A team now. Though we were slumming it in junior Bs.
Man, that one year we spent together in junior B, dude, like the silk jerseys, playing in just like 1,000 degrees. The second it gets wet, you feel like you're carrying a human on your back. And I mean, Dylan Gilbert made it his mission to make our life pretty shitty that year.
That was a fun year, man. We had a lot of rookies on that team. I think there was, I want to say, like 7 of us, and
Yeah.
we all seemed to get along pretty well together. And they made us sing the national anthem before the home opener, all 7 of us standing up there. So we looked like donkeys doing that, but it was fun. We had a good group.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was. I feel like when you look back on that team now, like we should have done a lot better.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but it's like I think we were just having fun. I think that year too was like it's almost that, and it's good that we did it. I think because it's like the year that almost like teaches you like what actual lacrosse is rather than just like being better in minor and just kind of going out and doing whatever and trying to score goals and stuff. It's like you kind of start to learn a little bit.
Yeah, definitely had to play a certain role for the team rather than just like, when you're one of the better players coming out of, your minor association, you kind of get the ball and play, and you're used to just what you do for a long time. And then when you go to a team like that, you learn you got to serve the team for a different purpose, and it's good for sure.
And everyone had their purpose. And I mean, I'll never forget, man, because we used to play in that tournament that was leading up to this season that was like kind of like almost like a men's league tournament in Six Nations. They would just like put in a bunch of random teams, and then there would be like our team and like one other maybe junior B from Six Nations played in it too, I think. But then the rest of it, like you're playing against like Delby Powless, who at the time was like 50 years old, and I remember, man, the most like wake up moment for me was when that one guy fought Glover and punched him so hard in the face that his face literally exploded. Like there was blood everywhere. Somehow Glover always was the one that was getting jumped, man. And bless his heart, he was such a beauty that year too.
Yeah, Speedbag took the nickname from Crap.
Yeah, literally. And I remember Coles, I remember vividly too you getting into that fight against that guy who he literally looked like Friezo from The
Oh,
Incredibles.
the guy from Guelph.
Oh my God, dude, he ran our goalie and you were just the closest guy. And you're like, all right, we're doing this. He
Standing
was
at the
huge.
top of the power play, it goes off the crossbar, and you guys are standing down there, basically all toes on the crease, and this guy just like fully booking it and just ran the goalie right over. And then, yeah, I proceeded to just get my head beat into the concrete.
I couldn't have gotten off the floor faster after that happened. I was tucked into bed on the bench, wanted no part of it. But that was
Oh, it was funny because we were going around in like first warm up, and that guy wasn't even out there with a stick. He was just like standing by the glass and like flexing his muscle pretty much. And I
yeah.
was like, fuck, sucks for whoever's got to fight that guy tonight. And then lo and behold.
Works out. It had to be you. But I
up,
think
Pauly?
at that time, yeah. What's up? What's going on, Polly?
Just a single father over here, man.
So, wait, we were talking about once
Just
every 8 months
grinding.
ain't bad.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. That's bad. That's bad. All right, boys. Have a good one. I'm out of here.
I think if I remember correctly, though, Colsey, I think at that time, you were already committed to Maryland, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, that must have been.
I remember hearing that.
It must have been like what, summer grade 11 going into grade 12. Because if that was the case, then yeah. But
Yeah.
actually, no, that is right. Because I remember being at the Hill and playing my first year of junior B.
How did you get how'd you get connected with Tills? Because you were the first Canadian, like maybe ever, to play at Maryland, certainly in a long time. So not a kind of a strong pipeline. How'd that connection go?
Yeah, so we it was like fall ball at the Hill. We went down. I think it was like the turkey shoot in Ithaca or Utica, something like that. We played in the tournament, and then it was actually it was Coach Cottle at Maryland at the time. So I guess he reached out to Brody, and then just things happened the way they did, and went down for a visit. And it honestly, things happened pretty quick. And I think it was like by the time February rolled around, I ended up committing. But it was Coach Cottle, and then that summer, I think Coach Cottle stepped away, or he might have got fired, and Coach Tillman got hired. So I think he had the choice to either like offload all the recruits that were currently committed or keep them on. And I think he decided to keep all of us, or most of us, on. And then, thank God he did, because I don't know where I would be if he didn't.
You would have been down at High Point hanging out with the boys.
I've heard it's nice. I heard you guys got golf carts down there.
They got it all. It's like every time I see an Instagram post, there's something new on campus that's just like, I saw the other day they've got a nail salon and a barber shop on campus now that you can just walk in and go get that stuff done. It's so ridiculous.
That must be nice. We had a Potbelly's, we had a Greek restaurant, and then we had Bentley's. That was pretty much it.
Bentley's is, man.
Yeah, Loma's a regular at Bentley's.
I went to Bentley's twice, and I remember Phipps's jersey was up there on the wall, and I tried to put my High Point student card in, and I got no less than 6 sucker punches to the back of the head right when I tried to do it. But yeah, that was a good time. What were you gonna say, Paulie?
No, didn't you just repost something from High Point? It was looked like a goddamn resort. It was like a fire pit surrounded by like a pool or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a fire pit with like a circle couch just sitting all around it for people to just go hang out. It's not even a real place. I don't know how it's a thing, but yeah. Anyway, so I guess would you have gone? That would have been going into grade 12. So then you did grade 12, and then we played 1 year of Burlington together before you went to Maryland. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I mean, in that group in itself too we could probably do an hour-long podcast on some of the things that went on there, and like the practices, those like 11 a.m. Saturday morning practices after Joe Dog's night or what have you. But even that team, like, I feel like once you look back at it, it's like we underachieved quite a bit based on all the guys we had on that roster.
Oh yeah, we underachieved a lot in junior, but I remember from those practices, man, like I couldn't have wanted to get out of that pre-practice run anymore. So like we used to have to do that mile or whatever, like by JC's Bagels and up the road. And we would always just like skip through the park and be back before the rest of the guys. Like, fuck, you guys are slow.
Yeah, what happened? And then this is probably the downfall of that era of the Chiefs. But we, instead of doing the full run, like we knew how long it should have taken, so then we started just running halfway to the park and then like stretching for 15 minutes and then running back. But we made sure we were out of eyesight of the coaches if they were poking their head out. So that could have been the beginning of the end for us. But
the worst one was we would when I was playing minor in Burlington, we would practice early in the season. And every box team does the like lines in the corner, roll the ball in, goalie throws it, you go 2 up the side or whatever. But it would be you do your rep, and then you'd have to go back to your original side, touch the end line, and then go back down to the other side. There's just an extra down and back in there every time. Still the only time I've ever done that. That was the worst hidden gasser of all time.
Was Cardi coaching you guys then?
He wasn't coaching our team, but he must.
He probably threw that. He was the king of the center and back or the down and back.
It's just a Burlington staple, I guess. But I just remember in between every rep, it was like you just touch the restraining line, like touch any line that he saw and go back.
Yeah.
and that was back in the time when he invented my nickname, where he would just say Danny Lomas as one word, and then that one stuck around for a little while. But there was some tough times there, man. Even our like that the second last year when you throw Rouet and Corbett and stuff, and fucking Haywires has the playoff run of his life to beat us out. But we had our fun. It was like honestly such a good group of guys to hang out with in the summer and just get on that makes it so much better to get on those damn bus rides to Peterborough or Orangeville or whatever, man.
Yeah. It was honestly, it was a lot of fun. I mean, some of the best years of our lives, obviously, but we were always we were close. We were always in games, and then when it came to playoffs, like we gave everyone a good run. We could just never get over the hump. I mean, it's probably because we didn't take the runs very seriously, but yeah, we were always close.
Yeah, we were right there. But during those years too, like you're having some pretty good runs at Maryland. Did you when you get down there and like Donnie said, there hadn't been a ton of Canadians there before. Like, had Tillman been a guy that coached Canadians before, and like, did you feel like you had to change your game to become more American, or what was that like?
That's a good question. I can't speak on how many Canadians he'd had before then, because Coach Till's been around for a long time, and he was at like Harvard and Navy, so probably not too many at Navy. But no, I mean there was some practices where it was tough, right? Because like you got to do every drill lefty and righty, and like we had no experience doing that, so like I was like skying balls or like putting them right in the dirt, and they're like just sending me to go hit the wall for 15 minutes. So it was definitely difficult. And then Coach Moran, I remember like he was our OC for the first 2 years that I was there, and I just remember him making me practice righty for the entire practice, and I was like next to useless. Like was basically just started setting picks for guys. And I just remember being like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not going to last here for a single year. Like, it was definitely tough. But then, the more time you got to spend around Coach Tells, because he did play a little bit of box and he had some experience with that. So the more trust you earn, like the little things, if you could just do them correctly and like move the ball, not turn it over, you start to spend a little bit more time with him, and he'd give you the green light to kind of take some chances and build some trust. But it was Coach Tells is the man. Obviously, don't know where I'd be without him, but can't speak on how many Canadians he had. I'd venture to say probably zero.
Yeah, I'd like more likely than not.
What position were you in field, Colsey? Might be a dumb question, but were you like an O-midi?
So I played. I think I was coming in as an O-midi, but yeah, we had a roster of like 55 players at that point. So like you immediately slide into the bottom of the depth chart, and I remember I had surgery in my first fall there, so didn't play at all, redshirted, and then the next fall we had a bunch of guys redshirt and come back. So again, kind of fighting for every spot that you were trying to get. And I remember them being like, we're just trying to get you on the field. Like, are you open to playing D-midi? So I got a sniff in my sophomore year at D-midi for like 2 or 3 games. We played Villanova, and I played all right. I think I had like, for a D-midi, I think I had like 2 or 3 ground balls and like just didn't get smoked off the line kind of thing. I was like, what? Like, I might be able to do this. I might stick here. And then we played Virginia the next week, and guys were just like, just flying by me left and right. I was getting dodged and just turning to the middle, trying to find, where I was recovering to, because they were definitely sliding. And then that was like the shortest stint I had on the field, then back to the bottom of the old depth chart there. So, but yeah, I kind of played a little bit on the D end, which definitely helped learn the defensive side of field lacrosse, which I had no idea of. And then, just over the next like 2 or 3 years, I moved into an O-midi role.
And that's quite the transition, because it's like you're going from doing that. And I've always found this interesting about kind of like these big programs, right? Is guys kind of have to start that way, and then you move into this role where, your first year, your last year, you're first team All-American. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're right.
Yeah, so it's that. I mean, you probably you looking back on that, you might want to play the kid as a 4-year-old mini, but who who am I to
And
say?
that's
But
like that's what you were doing the whole like. I'm sorry, like I missed like half the conversation, but that's what you were playing like at the hill too, like attack, midi essentially, right? Like that's kind of what you're recruited at.
Yeah, I was playing O midi, but Brody was a firm believer in like two-way middies, so you got stuck on defense and you weren't coming off. You just kind of had to survive out there. But honestly, it was the best situation for me to learn a lot. But we had like Mike Chanachuk and Drew Snyder and like some amazing players, all first team All Americans. So like you kind of had to wait your turn or try and find a way to get on the field some other way. So it was definitely it helped me a lot.
Because you guys went to the Final Four every year. You were there, right?
Yeah, I think so. My freshman year when I redshirted, we lost to Loyola in the championship, and then the following year, yeah, I think it was a Final Four, and then I think in my third year, I think we lost at home to Cornell, so I don't think we made it then. But the other years, yeah.
Yeah, I remember our moms talking back then, and your mom was like, this was like in February, and they're planning what games to go to, and your mom's like, yeah, we'll probably go to the Final Four, and my mom was like, wait, you just like have it penciled in? It's like, well, yeah, if you go 3 out of 4 years, pretty good run
that
there,
wasn't
obviously.
my mom. My mom did not have the same conversations with anybody about High Point. Those things weren't happening. We were just ready to see if we could go out and win the SoCon.
You guys were playing in the cottage weekends.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh yeah, coach, I'll be back for the first game of the junior A season, May 2nd. But that we ended up we just played each other the 1 year, right?
Yeah, I think that was my fifth year. Was that your senior year?
Yeah, that would have been my senior year. That
Yeah.
was the game looked close for the first 6-7 seconds, and then things went a little sideways. I think at one point, but that was a fun game, man. That's a cool place to play. I have quite a bit of jealousy towards the schools that like have those like sick like historic stadiums, or even if it's not like a full kind of stadium like that, like even like playing at like a Virginia. Um, must have been pretty cool to play all those big schools and go to all those different places to see see where they played.
Yeah, I was definitely fortunate, really fortunate. I got to play at a lot of really cool stadiums. And then when our field, Bird Stadium, at that point it was called, they used to have grass. I think it was my first 2 or maybe 3 years. I think it was 2 years. There was grass there. So like a lot of the ACC schools had grass. Ours was not as well kept as like Virginia or Duke, where you'd get like a pretty consistent roll. Maryland's was like there was hills everywhere and like mounds, so you'd be going to pick up a ground ball and like the ball would fly up and spike you right in the cage. But it was cool. It like added a different element and it made it a little bit. I felt a little bit more difficult to play there. But yeah, when we got to play like UNC or Duke or any of those big dogs that came to campus, we got a lot of fans. And I think that was my first taste of like, I kind of looked around like, whoa, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's sweet, man. And like running out with the flag and all the stuff that you guys kind of got set up. It's pretty sweet, man. But I think we can kind of move our way because we still got a lot to get through. In terms of kind of NLL draft, what do you remember from that night and maybe the meetings kind of leading up to it? Did you have an idea where you were going?
No, honestly, not a very good indication of where it would land. It's one of those things where like I had a conversation with most teams. I think my conversation with John was a little bit longer just because John's a pretty detail oriented person. So I didn't know if that was an indicator of anything, but yeah, I just kind of went to the draft. I remember rolling up with you guys, and it was like just crazy nervous and just hoping you get picked, kind of thing. And then when it landed at 4, I was thrilled because obviously that year, like we had like Lyle and Randy, Shane. Like you go down the list, like now guys that are absolute studs, and just kind of found myself in a incredible situation as a rookie. So yeah, I'm pretty thrilled with how it worked out.
Did you play Did you play major before you got drafted? Because you went to school?
Yeah, I played 2 years in Oakville.
Okay. Okay. So you had like at least a little bit of experience like playing against some of the guys then too?
Yeah, I remember playing for Coach Sawyer, and I think Shooter was the GM at that point, and then playing in front of guys like Rosie, and there were other guys around that were studs, and I think it was Steph LeBlanc that was there.
Colsey, we were talking about your position in field. Was there ever like a thought that you'd play offense for the Swarm, or kind of right to kind of the two-way role you play now?
No, I don't think there was really any conversation with that. I think when I had conversations with Eddie and Chai and Laddie when he was there, it was just a lot of like, if you can play two way and be kind of steady on the back end, and you get the chance to make some plays up front, um, make a play. But we had a pretty solid offense, right? We had Lyle and Randy and guys like that, so it was like get off the floor when you can, so we can let the guys go out and play. But yeah, we'll see. Who knows what the future holds?
I'm still holding out hope too, Colsey. That I get to play a little more offense too as well.
It's coming. It's coming, Paulie. Those bouncers keep going.
All of us D guys, we hope that we get a call for power 3 or 4 someday.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you're in the game and just hope 3 guys go down. It's like, now's my chance. They have to put me up there.
Anytime you start blowing a team out and you're up by like 8 or 9, you're looking down. You're like, should we switch benches here?
Yeah, you kind of like get the head going a bit. Like, hey, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, Colsey, we'll get to the Mann Cup later, but if you ever wanted to switch senior A teams, you could run the point for pretty much most of them, I think. So if you really want power play time, it's out there.
I think I'm all right where we're at. Yeah, I enjoyed my summers with 6.
There you go.
I'll send a text to Coburg. We'll get you set up. No problem. But I mean, your rookie year is a decent start to the NL experience. I mean, you guys end up, from my knowledge, I think, is you guys win that year, right?
Yeah.
That's a decent little start. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what you remember from that final.
Yeah, like I said, I was super fortunate to land on a team that was coming together at the right time, and at that year, I felt like we were really hot. I feel like we won a lot of games just by outscoring teams. We weren't like the best team defensively, but we were able to get Pooley on board, which certainly helped the defensive side of the ball, and then offensively, like those guys were just, it felt like every night they were going off, and we just kind of rode that momentum of scoring into the playoffs. And then, we were fortunate enough to get the first one done at home. Then we went out to Sask, and the game panned out the way it did. And I just remember it was like a 1-goal game, and they had just scored, and they get that hum going. And it was just, the place was just like rocking. And obviously as a rookie, like, it's a first taste of it. Like, you get all the firsts, right? It was the first taste of everything, first taste of a 1-goal game in playoffs, and let alone a final. And I felt like you just like couldn't hear yourself think, and the place was just buzzing. And it was like an amazing experience to go through as a young guy. And we were able to get the job done, miles and overtime. But yeah, it was a super cool experience. That place was Saskatchewan was a cool place to play.
Yeah, just to connect some dots for folks listening, 266 goals that year for Georgia, almost 15, just under 15 per game in the regular season. And then against Sask, one of the best defenses ever, 18 in the first game, 15 in the second game. So to your point, just outscoring a lot of teams.
Fucking rights. That's our stat guy. I mean, going from there, I mean, you guys kind of, again, it's like, you hear this all the time from guys that get to the championship, like in their first year or whatever. And it's like, you just kind of think you're going to be back there like every time. Right. And it's, I remember, I forget, it must've been like Tyler. I think it was Tyler Seguin that happened to him with Boston. But like, since then, how would you kind of, we'll get into, this past summer for you, but how would you quantify or qualify kind of like the rest of the seasons, or what sticks out to you memory wise and like those, maybe 6 years kind of after that?
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs. I guess I think if anything has showed me over the last 6 years, like you win your first year and you're like, I'll be here every year. This is gonna be great. We're gonna win a million cups and I'll retire happy. And then, after the last 6 years, it's like it is really hard to win in this league, and especially now more so with more and more players coming in. Every team's loading up, and between like expansion, we lost a bunch of guys that were core players for our team, and then things just happen over the course of the years, and that year definitely showed me how hard it is to win when you come up short in playoffs or come up short in the regular season. You look back and with a fine-tooth comb, and you're like, wow, I could have done a lot more. And when you go into the off season coming up short, like it's tough, but it definitely has helped me work harder than I feel like I probably would have if we won every year. It would have just been easy, right? So, it's definitely had its ups and downs playing with the Swarm and sometimes coming up short, but had a really good group of guys to stay connected with our core group guys there. And it's definitely, it's a lot of fun there in Georgia, but we definitely want to have a little bit more success than we've had.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's Paulie, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I just think that it's like interesting because first of all, I feel like you've been in the league longer than 6 years. That's a compliment. I'd like you've only been in for 6 years. I thought you've been in for like 10.
Well, it would be, what is it like? Would this be 8?
Yeah, well, it's 7 full seasons, and then we had the one COVID.
Okay. I guess it makes sense. But like the interesting thing about Georgia and now like what you're saying though is like you've kept like the one thing about Minnesota and Georgia, like when I was coming up, they never kept the core group of guys. And now like for you and what you've seen, like they've kept this core group, which has like helped you guys. And again, you've had success, and obviously like we've all had shortcomings, but like I think that's been the one interesting thing I've seen of like the change in Georgia was before like you'd have all these guys in like 1-2 years trade, get like the first, second overall, trade them in 2 years. And like now you've had like, again, like yourself, Jacko, Lyle, all these guys now for like a while. And it's like, again, I think all of us in team sports, like it's nice to have like a core group of guys to kind of keep going and like build off each other and stuff like that. So it's one thing I've noticed like just over the years how like they've stopped kind of making those like almost wholesale changes every year for the last like again 8 years for yourself essentially.
Yeah, like you guys know how it is when you come up short, that feeling in the locker room and like the silence in the locker room just sucks. But we've been able to keep this group together, and like or at least I've known for the last some time now that the pieces really aren't changing too much, and you got a ton of belief in what you can do. And it's been nice to not see too much change. We've been fortunate to be having a lot of the same faces around the locker room.
No doubt. Well, I think maybe we kind of jump into to this summer, man. There's a lot to get through for you. You've been playing a whole lot of fucking lacrosse, but talk to us a little bit about the summertime with Six Nations. How many games did you end up playing in the regular season?
I think it was 8 regular season games and then playoffs.
That's what you had to this year, right? Wasn't that the rule this year? 8? Wasn't that the minimum that they raised?
I think it was 4 last summer, and then I think they raised it to 6 this summer. But you might be right.
I just know they raised it. I just remember hearing because they also lessened the games too, which made it even harder.
You had to make like half the games. I think it's 6 of 12.
It was either 6 or 8, but yeah, like so. Either way, it was more games and less games played, which makes it tough. Just a little side.
Yeah, this summer was awesome. Last summer as well was pretty successful with the Chiefs. I felt like we had a really close locker room, and it was honestly like it was a joy going there every night because it really seemed like everyone had fun together. And obviously, when you win, it makes it a lot better to be able to show up and honestly, like we kind of breezed through the regular season over the last 2 years. So like that feeling rolling into playoffs is like, all right, as long as we kind of just stick to what we know and not get in our own way, we should have some success here. So.
And I think that's like, I guess, like this sidebar for listeners. If we're gonna be a bunch of the sidebar podcast. It's
Yep.
like that is summer ball in a nutshell. Is get through regular season, because with playoffs being best of sevens and best of fives, like that is essentially, let's get through regular season healthy, and then we dial it in for playoffs. And yeah, usually the top teams get to cruise a little bit easier than everyone else, but then it's like playoffs. It is like, this is the one league where it is like truly a different season, because like guys are coming back, guys are in. Now you have like a whole different lineup, so it definitely makes it interesting. Like once you get the playoffs, for sure.
Yeah, the chemistry piece was important too. I think the last 2 summers we've been pretty fortunate for guys to be staying healthy and the same faces in the lineup every night, so you get used to the tendencies and playing with certain guys. But I remember like 2018, I played with 6, and I felt like every night that I was there, I was like introducing myself to random people every other night. So it was nice to have some consistency and definitely some success.
Talk a little bit about when you guys lost to Peterborough for the first time, because you kind of had the perfect, not kind of, you had a perfect season going, and then you kind of lose. That's obviously a kind of a hurdle for you to kind of go through. What was kind of the message after that? What was the feel of dropping one and then kind of having to get back in the saddle?
It was tough. Being honest, like you go all season without losing, and you go through the first round of playoffs, and like I said before, it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, we'll cruise through this, and then we kind of got punched in the mouth and 2 games in a row. But I didn't have a doubt in my mind that we weren't going to come through the series. It was just one of those things where it's like Paulie mentioned, with all the variables of MSL and summer lacrosse, like it's a grind. Guys can go down, and it's one of those things where you're like, okay, we have to win 4 still, but we have to play 6 games total at least, and we just got to hope we can get a win just to get the ball rolling. And then it was like, we got to keep everyone healthy, and I think for the most part we were able to accomplish that. But yeah, it's always tough when you lose, and playing in Peterborough, I feel like every year we play there, it's like there's like they got the homers, right? So like they've had people there that have probably had season tickets for like 30 years to Peterborough. So it's like it's a tough place to play in, and knowing that you drop 2 and one of them was at Peterborough, it's like, okay, we got to come back here a couple times. Like we have to win both times we come back here. So it makes it more challenging, but I think that's what helped with how tight our group was. I think we overcame a lot of adversity really well together.
It's not easy to play in a game when you look up and you see a grandma shaking her bra around in the stands. That's yeah. I mean, and then working through
Speak
that.
for yourself.
Yeah. If that doesn't get you sparked, I don't know what will. Talk about kind of once you guys obviously come back in the series, and then you're able to close it out. What's the feeling like after you win that thing?
It was great. I mean, you come back from a 0-2 deficit and know that you only have one more series to go. I think the boys were juiced, and it helped that we had some time off too. I think it was like maybe a week that we had to get some guys healthy that needed to get some PT and everything like that. But it was like, okay, let's take our little break here. Let's rejuvenate. I think we had a practice, and it was like, let's just hit the ground running when we get there. And we've got some guys on the team that are a little bit older, like Jammer's getting up there, and I think a couple of guys spoke to the team just like, listen, we don't know how many times we've got at this left, and let's make sure now, especially that we're at home doing this thing with the Mann Cup, like let's make sure it's a memorable one, and don't leave anything behind, or don't leave like anything up to chance. Let's really give it our best crack at this.
How many days did you guys have off in between kind of finishing off Peterborough and then starting the series off for the Mann Cup?
I can't remember. Stat guy Donnie might have to look it up, but I think it was like a week or so because you finish. They got to schedule the games, and then Vic had to fly out and get settled and stuff.
And then they have to decide. Then
The
they have to
court
decide
hearings.
they
Yeah.
have to decide which player they're picking up from which team, and then if they're allowed to play, or they have to put handcuffs on them, or what have
There's
you.
all the
But
court hearings they had to go through first.
yep,
That was a pretty wild situation. I remember we heard guys were coming out, and then we have that we had a little luncheon meeting or whatever with the two teams, and they speak and welcome everybody to the tournament and all that. And I remember looking over and I didn't see like Malcolm or Messenger, and I was like, I wonder if they didn't show up. And then I heard that meeting, and so there's just so many it was like the rumor mill just flying around. Guys are playing, they're not playing one night, and then it was just like we got to the practice the next morning, and JT was just like, "Who gives a shit who's playing? Who gives a shit who's in the lineup? Like, let's just play hard and let's just play our game, and we'll be fine," kind of thing.
yeah, all those rumors were us just like writing fake letters in to just generate some news and they're in, they're out, they're out, they're in.
Those Paulie's burner accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
Paulie Levi.
Talk to us kind of about the series itself, and like obviously there's game to game, there's different feel, and you got to kind of move on to the next one and keep going, and it's a lot of games and in not a lot of days. How did the body hold up through all that, first of all?
Not great, if I'm being completely honest. I'm getting up there in age, right? So it's like you could do it when I was like 25. I'm sure if I ever made it to a Mann Cup then I would have been okay. But we played the first game, and actually the first two games it was like, you know what, I'm feeling okay. And then like that second day soreness was our day off. And I was thinking like, holy shit, we got to play 3 more games like back to back to back. And you kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I have a tough time sleeping after games. So like I was getting home at like 11 o'clock, wasn't falling asleep till like 2 or 3 kind of thing. And then we're getting up to go to shoot around, and I'm stiff as a board and thinking to myself, like, I don't know if I've got this in me. I'm getting up there, but it's definitely a grind, but it's a lot of fun, right? Like once you get warmed up and the engine gets going, and you kind of get out for second warm up, and the place was like packed for first and second warm up. So kind of all that, I guess the adrenaline just kicks in and all the soreness kind of goes away. But once the ball drops and you get going, it was a sick series, honestly. Like it was close in every game too. It's not like we blew anybody out. So
I was just gonna say that, and I may have said this in one of their pods. Like you guys won. I was there for the first game, and like Vic played well. You guys played well too. Like had chances, and it's like shit. Like this may be a series. And even all like the other games, like Vic had a bunch of 1-2 goal leads. Like it was like almost. I think I compared it to like when Tortorella got swept. He's like, we didn't get swept. We lost 4-0. It's like Vic could maybe hang their hat on that they were like in the series, but it was a good series considering it was 4-1. Like they had chances to put you guys away, but it just seemed like every game you guys would go down, you guys just found an answer and just end up burying them and like winning by 1 or 2. But it was like actually a really good lacrosse series, like you said.
Yeah, might have to have John look it up, but I think in every game, I think we went down 3-0 in every game.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was. I don't even know if I really need to look it up. Like you guys were for sure down every time. I went to game 2, I think, right after Paulie. Basically the same thing as kind of the late second period, early third. You guys would always seem to kind of find a little stride there. So yeah,
notorious for slow starts all year long, but once those guys once Randy and Lyle get hot and they get the touches they need, they just take off. And then obviously when you got Dougie and Warren and net and they got the big sticks, like they shut the door, and it makes it a lot easier on your defense. Like you can just stretch out, you can start playing guys a little harder. And I think once we found some comfort in, I guess, the routine and not getting too phased if we went down, the guys just took off, and we started to play. We played very well in the second quarters or second period.
Like an old snowblower, get that thing started, and then once it's going, it's reliable. But That's a new one for you, Donnie. You can keep,
Yeah,
you can keep
what?
that.
What?
Um, you've never used an old snowblower before, but anyways, it's talk about after you after you guys win that thing. What was that night like?
It was fun. We got to celebrate and pop the champagne in the locker room. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures or anything of the new
You guys
locker
had the
room.
cheap stuff. I saw you had the cheap stuff. The Ace of
I
Spades.
think it
It was
was the
pretty
Ace of
cheap.
Spades. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
Jesus.
It was good stuff. I thought about sneaking one into my bag before I
Yeah,
left,
it's
but
selling on
or
eBay or
just the
something.
empty bottle for like a centerpiece up here or something.
That'd be
But
sweet.
it was cool, man. We obviously like the new locker room's got like 4 TVs around. It's got like a 6 speaker system and stuff. And I was like kind of looking around, like, are we gonna spray all this stuff and wreck this place? And then guys just grabbed the bottles and away we went. So I guess we were doing it anyways. But it was cool, man. We had friends and family in the locker room for a few hours afterwards, and then we all went to Jammers, and his dad set up a fire for everyone. So there was it was a long night, but it was definitely a lot of fun, very memorable.
That's awesome, man. Well, we've
I want
go
to.
ahead.
Sorry, I just want to touch on, like you said, the new locker room. Did you get to? Do you have a chance to play for Kenny?
I did in 2018.
Yeah. So I just kind of just touch on like Ryan taking over because obviously like rest his soul, Kenny passed away, but I got to play for him and like hell of a guy, took care of the boys, took care of the team, and then like Ryan takes over, and it almost seems like he took like 4 steps above his dad, which seems almost impossible. Like you say the new room, the new everything, and they like just talk about kind of, I guess, like his contribution and just him running the team. Like just seemed like everything was just obviously first class, and he's a great
Yeah.
guy.
So I went to the Hill with Ryan my first year, and
Oh
then
no way. Okay.
yeah, small world, but
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
things circled back and everything came together, and Ryan's been awesome, man. Like when I got to see him again, it was great, and he went all in on the last 2 years that I've been there. Like he's given us everything we've needed in terms of like all the resources. So um, we had like massage therapists and physical therapists at the locker room kind of when we needed it, and it was all on hand. So like you never really had to worry about I guess what you would normally have with the pros. Like it was all there for us, equipment and everything like that. If you needed anything, like Millsy and Nick, like our equipment managers, were all over it. So it just takes a lot of the stress off of like what you have to do normally in summer ball, like packing 3 or 4 sticks in case you break a couple. And but yeah, man, Rye went all in and over the last 2 years, and it's been great because our group, I think, has benefited from it like crazy. Like he's put together like golf tournaments for us to get together at Mon Hill, and it's been great for us to spend a lot of time together. You normally don't do a ton of that in summer. Guys just drive in, play, and drive out to whatever respective city they're from. But we spent a lot of time there together, which definitely helped with our chemistry in the long run.
That's great, man. But we've had you for a while. We kind of want to jump into the most recent championship you've decided to take home here in the Worlds. What maybe just
Is
to start
this
talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry? Is this your second? Is this second or third for you playing for the Worlds?
Second box, I got one in
Okay.
sixes.
Okay.
What was what was the experience like? Kind of going there and just seeing all the different countries that were represented, seeing all those different games, and kind of hanging out and playing the round robin games leading up to obviously the semifinal stuff.
The whole experience was really cool. Um, Obviously, the amount of countries that were there, it's enlightening to see how big box lacrosse is getting globally. I think lacrosse is in the best place it's ever been from an international standpoint. There are so many countries playing, and then when you're able to add the women's side, it added like however many games to the tournament. Plus, you get to see how talented some of these women are. So um, the opening ceremonies was incredible. It was in the arena, and teams were walking in together with all their flags, and you're getting to meet people and chat with people from different parts of the world that probably wouldn't unless you're fortunate enough to travel. But the games were cool. Like even a lot of the lower loop games, they were still pretty competitive. And like I said, lacrosse is in a really good place. But in terms of being a part of Team Canada, like the first one in 2019 for me, I was super young. So I was like looking around and just kind of trying to stay out of the way and just soak in as much as you can. Like Corbeil's a massive dude and Rube's a massive dude. Like you just kind of want to stay out of their way and learn as much as you can. But this time around, a little bit older and been around a little bit longer. So, felt like I belonged there, which was definitely an awesome feeling to have. But you look around that locker room, it's like every player in there is a superstar in their own right. And again, like I found myself even at 30 years old being like, wow, I have a lot to learn here, even from the coaching staff, from the players, like guys you're playing alongside. So 12 days went super fast and things happen really quick, even though there's not a whole lot to do in Utica. But, by the time everything shook out, it was like I reflect on it now, it's like this was such a cool experience, and can't thank Lacrosse Canada enough for having me a part of it, because it's something that, like, you're never going to find, right? Like in the NLL, there's great players all around, but in terms of that level of play, like, you never have to worry about anybody not doing their job. Like everyone just takes care of it at such a high level. And then, you go to like transition the ball up and you either like pass it off to Dane or like Teeter or Shane. It's just like every guy on that roster was just a stud. So it was a super cool experience. And the games were really close as well, which definitely makes for a lot of fun competition. You play against like the Haudenosaunee team. We were up like 9-0. And all of a sudden we come out after half and you blink and it's like 10-10 and all of a sudden you're in a nail biter, which was super cool to be a part of. And then the USA, like you got to give them props and tip your cap, because they've come a long way. And not to say that we were worried by any means, but it was a great game. And there's tons of really good lacrosse players across the States that are transitioning into box. And I think that gap is getting a lot closer. So who knows what the future holds. I hope Canada sweeps forever. But I think the U.S. is getting really close, and being a part of those games that were really tight was definitely interesting.
Well, obviously, you know most of the guys pretty well, but was anybody on Canada that you maybe hadn't played with as much and were just kind of like, were better than you maybe realized, or anyone who kind of stuck out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Donnie. Anyone
Who do you think
actually was pretty good?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I know, like who's surprised? Like, who was maybe like a sleeper that people don't really talk about much?
Yeah.
That, like you saw him play and they were just like awesome.
Well, you play a lot of before the NLL split into the new. Like it used to be when it was East-West, you didn't know a ton about the guys from the West Coast, right? So, and you only played against them, probably a handful of times in my time in the NLL. So, like, I didn't know a whole lot about Eli Salama, but he's a stud. Like, he gets up and down the floor so well, and he's super strong on defense. And then, like, Tanner Cook, like, he's a big dude, and I kind of just, before we ever started playing against him, I kind of just chalked it up to like, oh, he's a power forward. Like he's just going to bump and bang, crash in there. And somehow he's coming away with all these points. But like you see him play in practice and he's just got like slick hands for a big dude, and got to appreciate his game. And Eli Salama was someone who stuck out. But I guess guys from like the East Coast that we've played a lot with, guys that you're familiar with, Ryan Smith, like the guy is just silky and seems to just find the top right corner every time he shoots. The top right every time. But he made a ton of really nice plays off the ground. Like he's big and strong, and he came up with some tough ground balls that ended up leading to really big goals for us. So yeah, I would say those three guys stood out a lot.
Who was when you guys are like hanging out and stuff, playing cards in the hotel, chilling? Because I would imagine there's not much else to do, kind of in Utica. Who were some personalities that stood out to you as just like all-time beauties?
Oh man, it's a lot, right? Like I didn't play a lot of cards this time around because I learned my lesson in Birmingham at sixes. Like I got rinsed and I ended up losing so much money. Like there was only 12 of us there for sixes, so like you couldn't really back out of cards. You got peer pressured into everything, and then all of a sudden Courier's like, "Well, we're playing for $100," so like you're kind of in the hole quite a bit of money if you're not good at cards like me.
Yeah.
So I took a back seat to a lot of the card games in Utica, but I'm a big fan of Challen, man. Like he flies under the radar and he's just so quiet, but like off to the side or like under his breath, he'll just like pop these one-liners out that are just hilarious. I think he's an awesome dude. And then Tanner Cook, like he's so funny, man. Like I don't want to call him a hillbilly, but like he's just got like this country ass attitude about him, which is just so funny, man. Like if you know his cousin Tuts, like I feel like they're just two peas in a pod if you got around them.
I did not know they were cousins. I just learned that right now.
It could be rumor mill, but I'm pretty sure they're
well, it's confirmed now. We're gonna run with it. What was the celebration like that night? Because I ended up getting some quite a few pictures sent to me of guys wearing the what do they call those? The mask again?
Oh, the Rey Mysterio mask.
Yeah, they're wearing the Rey Mysterio like Nacho Libre type thing, running around. But what was that night like?
It was good, man. Same kind of thing. We got into the adjacent locker room and did the champagne and all that, and then I think that it was like a well-oiled machine, like with so many teams coming in and out of the locker rooms. Like they had the cleaners like waiting outside, and like, come on, let's go, let's get you out of here. So we kind of got rifled out of the room after like I want to say like an hour, but we went back to the hotel, and that whole week or week and a half, we had these two conference rooms in the hotel, and it was everyone's friends and family that were there, and cornhole set up, and then Teddy was giving out all the guys' jerseys, so some guys were getting them signed, and the two rooms were like split in half, so you could kind of see into the next room through the adjacent doors, but on the one side it was like Priolo doing this like whatever leg wars, and he was like flipping people where you got to lock legs, and people were getting flipped over and stuff. I think he did it to his father-in-law, but
that's awesome.
It was cool, man. It was a cool experience having everybody's families around, because you don't get to spend, honestly, like any time with guys from other teams or even get to meet like their significant others or their family members. So it's cool to have that experience, even if it's for one night and everyone just kind of celebrating that.
Who was your MVP of that evening?
MVP of that evening, I cut it out a little bit earlier and went to my parents' Airbnb, so I didn't see the aftermath of everything. But I gotta say Tanner Cook, just because he's like the loudest guy. He's so big and like draws so much attention to himself, and he was just like, between him and Free, they were the center of attention for sure.
And then I guess maybe you went from kind of the highest point of your life to having to drive home from Utica the next day to the lowest point.
Oh, buddy. I was hurting so bad that first thing in the morning. Like, I ended up driving back with Leo Sturos because he was playing for Team China somehow, the chameleon. Yeah, no. There was like probably 12 nations there that he could have played for, but I just remember we got to like one of the, I don't know, they don't call it en route in the States, but it was like one of those truck stops had like Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, and I just remember looking at my wife being like, I gotta get this out of me. I was full blown like sweating, waiting for my food and stuff. So I just like grabbed the closest like family restroom, because God forbid that was in like the public men's room. So I grabbed the family restroom and just like let it all fly and get it out of there, and I was good afterwards. But
you're feeling like a new man.
I finally have like, what is it, Thursday today? I finally turned the corner like yesterday. Started to feel back to myself again. So yeah, things are looking up.
Things are on the up and up. And now, I mean, I guess you got a little bit of a break now. This is gonna be the longest break probably since the season's ended that you've got before camp here. So it's probably just some time to get the body right, eh?
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this month of October to not do too much, nothing too strenuous, and give my stick a little bit of a break for a week or so here. But yeah, my wife and I got our green card interview in less than a week here, so looking forward to that and getting down stateside very shortly. But yeah, definitely some R&R, get the body back together, because this summer was a grind. I think it was like 50 plus games over the course of the year, so I'm looking forward to it for sure.
It's wild. Well, we've had you for a while. You, Donnie and Polly, you got anything else for Colsey before we let him go?
Just the jersey number 45, obviously at Maryland. I think 45 most of your time there through school. I think we all know that story with the Hill Academy. But where'd the 55 come from, and kind of what's the story there?
Not a ton of backstory there. I wore 45 and just through the Hill and that connection, and then when I got drafted to the Swarm, Jay Nobes was wearing it. So I like the number 5. I mean, I wore it in junior, so I just decided to double down on it, and it's worked out pretty good so far.
Nichols.
Yeah.
I guess, who in your time playing kind of, you played in every league, you've played, in the summertime, Mann Cups, World Championships. Who would you say is like the most impressive player that you've seen play?
I've had this conversation with a lot of people, so it might take some time, but I think from playing with Randy for the last 2 summers, and then I played with him on the Swarm quite a bit, like, I don't see a lot of holes in his game. Like, he can set really good picks. He can feed it from any direction. He plays the game so well with his head up. He's just got like a ridiculous shot. But then, like, I mean, Lyle's a complete goal scorer and just insanely athletic. Like, he's a specimen in himself. But I'd have to say, like, defensively, I'd have to say like either Cree or Rubes. Like, they just have that like slap, like lumberjack check that just seems to work every time for them. And it's something that I don't have in the arsenal. Like, I'd say for guys that are most impressive are things that like just can't be taught, I guess. So like Rubes and Cree have that crazy check, and like Randy and Lyle's shots, like, it doesn't matter how many times I tried to work on those shots, like, I just could never hit them. It's just like God given. So I would say those 4 guys.
Nice, I like it. Anything else, Paulie or Donnie?
What's weirdest piece of gear you have?
Yes, that's a good one.
Weirdest piece of gear, like in my bag,
or like oldest?
Yeah, it's like oldest, or like something that's just like random.
Oh man, I've had the same shaft for a really long time. I mean, that's probably not that weird, but I've got this one shaft that I've used for practice for a long time, like for my own shoot arounds and stuff. It's nothing crazy, but swap the head when I go to coach or something like that. It's actually one of Shane's like old shafts. So have you seen Shane sticks?
Yeah, with the bend to them.
Yeah, like I stole that from him like 7 years ago.
Explain that, by the way. Explain that for our viewers.
So when we were living together, I was like, picked up a stick one day and I was like, what the hell is this? Why does it feel like this? And I looked at it and it's like curved from the top down. And when we were living together, he would grab like a brand new shaft and he'd like stand over our couch and just like cross check it into submission and like break the arm of our chair. But it's got this curve on it, and when you put the head on it, it just like sits so well, like right over the shoulder. So like for an offensive guy, I mean, I'm not going to speak on a stud O guy's behalf, but like it just like when you hold the ball in there, it feels like it's just like sitting so perfectly. So I think now he's got a guy that like will like bend the shaft perfectly, like it goes to like a pipe bender kind of thing. But I stole that from Shane. Probably he's just finding out about this when this comes out, but I stole that from Shane a long time ago. And like when I go to coach the kids or whatever, I definitely always bring that with me because it's like makes you feel like an old guy every now and then. It's nice.
Yeah, that's got to be a nice feeling.
Do you know where he got it from?
Have you had Shane on here? I think you did, like, real early, right?
Yeah, we did
we
really
had it. We
early.
never. I don't think we touched on that though.
If you get him back on, you got to ask him, because that's one of his, like, his secrets. And I want to say it was from, like, an older player. I don't know if it was like junior or something like that, but he's told me that he got it from an older guy.
Because so the only person I played, and again, because I'm old, so I would have played with this guy. But Chris Driscoll used to have a stick like that.
The Drisky.
Yeah.
Shane's like the Schwab of lacrosse. Like, he can tell you who won like 40 years ago and what the score was in the middle of the first period and stuff. So, like, if it was one of those older indiscreet guys, he would still know that and pick it up from someone random.
That's
awesome.
I mean, and again, just randomly, that's the only guy I've ever seen have it too.
I feel like Shane sticks to like an average lacrosse fan or player would look like a spaceship. Like everything is basically custom, right? He bakes the heads. They're super wide, crazy
I've been
pocket in
Shane's
them, bent
roommate for a
shaft.
long time, and like what he does with his stick, like, listen, I'm not the guy to talk about sticks because I don't even know how to do shooting strings. Shane actually does everything to my stick, but this guy, like, we've roomed together forever now, and every night he's just like sitting there pulling the thing apart, like beating the pocket in, bending the shaft. It's just like nonstop with it, but like it obviously works for him because he's a sick player, but it's like neurotic about it. But yeah, I mean, everything's custom. He widens out the head. He's constantly got a softball in there. The shaft's bent, and like the knob is perfect. Like, he does these knobs, and like they just don't come off no matter how hard you rip them. I think I've had the same knob on my shaft for like 2-3 years now. So you got to ask him about that next time he's on.
I was gonna say, I think he started using the bench shaft after he after he got careered in the MLO bubble. That's when the shaft.
Maybe he thought it was straight. He was looking at it. It was just wonky.
Still one of the craziest things. Oh, because we did have him on early, and he told that story about the hit, man, and then you just see Jokum take the pass from him and just toss it over to someone else.
Man, you guys got to do it like a group podcast with a bunch of guys from the MLO bubble, because that thing was an absolute gong show.
Oh my god, dude! The most confusing time ever was when we were hanging out in a hotel room late night, and you got Colsey, who's on the podcast, and then you got that older guy Colsey who played in the MLL, and I'm saying Colsey, and we got both guys looking at me. He's like, "You don't know me? Why are you calling me Colsey?" I'm like, "What?" Like, yeah, I don't know you, man. Don't yell at me. But it was, that was an interesting time. There's probably quite a bit that probably can't be repeated, but it was fun nonetheless.
Yeah, we gotta give it like 15 years, and then we can kind of let everyone get out of pro lacrosse that was there, and then we can
might
kind
have
of
to
do
do one of those Netflix Untolds about how we folded the MLL.
That thing deserves a 30 for 30 from that week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hey, whenever the 30 for 30 start going through pro lacrosse, there's some episodes in there. There's some series. Yeah.
That might have to. Yeah, that could be an own series in its own right. But
yeah.
But Colsey, man, appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. This was awesome and long overdue. Like I said when I texted you, we just wanted to iron out the kinks before we got our biggest guest on. So. Congrats again.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Season 7, and I finally made the cut. It's great.
It took some time.
Man, love the show. Love what you guys are doing, and appreciate you guys having me. You guys are all beauties.
Thanks, Colsey.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, you, man. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, that was Bryan Cole. Fun little chat. Obviously, guy's been very successful in the game, and as you put all of his resume out there, it's pretty crazy, and I'm honored to have played junior with him and remain close friends, spend some nights at Bentley's together, and still be very close with him. So appreciate him coming on. But our buddy Paulie's back. Just say hey, Paulie.
Hey guys, sorry, just kids bedtime takes about 3 hours, so. But I'm here.
You did a great job. You did a great job, buddy.
Both kids are sleeping. I was dead straight that I was leaving the interview halfway through to a screaming kid.
Yeah,
50 once they go down, whether they get back up in the next half hour or not.
Probably
But no.
Loma's got to get going, but Kings of Leon was awesome.
Yeah, unreal. 5th time seeing them. I'll see them every time they come to Canada.
I've heard that from a lot of people, so I gotta get out to the
Nah,
next one.
dude. I mean, I think everyone kind of likes their music, even if you're not a fan. But
Yeah.
they're just their shows have gotten better over the years. But the thing is like what you hear on the record, it's the exact same. I think
They
that's
sound like that.
kind of what like made me appreciate them is that it's just like the exact same. And the guy's got like an interesting voice. You'd kind of be like, oh, it's probably doctored, but it's like the exact same. So no, it was a banger, man. They had a good little mix of old and new, which is also nice too. So no complaints, man. No complaints.
And I would assume you had several or just a couple Cottage Springs while you were there as well.
Yeah. Kind of came in thinking I wasn't gonna, and then
Classic.
You get in
I'm
the
gonna
moment, your favorite band, and then
I figured as soon as I saw the selfie on your Instagram story, there might have been a
it's like,
couple.
dude, were you in one? I was like, I mean, I wasn't like in one, but I was half in one. But
Yeah, no, one foot was in. You were testing the water. That's fine.
And this feels like a couple weeks ago when Paulie was like, "Yeah, we're getting a little older, so we went to the bar from like 12 to like 10."
12,
It's like
12 to 12.
It's a good
We went
shift.
I was home by 12. That's a 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, you can justify it to yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think that that pretty much does it for 121. This is a fun episode. Last week we did some actual in-depth analysis of lacrosse, and this week we did some in-depth analysis of business sales. So that was a fun little thing. But we, as always, appreciate you guys listening. Thanks to Cottage Springs. Get out there, try them, and we'll chat with you next week.
Next week is our golf episode. Peace.